Welcome to the American Grown Podcast, hosted by Austin Sullivan. The American Grown Podcast will focus on people from different walks of life and their journey to where they are now. Now, turn up your volume and settle in for a great episode.
Hi, I'm Austin Sullivan, and I'm your host for the American Grown Podcast, recorded inside the Colortech Creative Solutions studios. Today, we have Jonathan Donley, aka JD, Penn State University Grad, who is currently living in Boston, hyping up crowds at local bars and venues with his DJing skills. JD, welcome to episode 2 of the American Grown Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Austin. Real pleasure. I've been big fan of your work and your family's work for years, and I've been watching podcasts so much the past few years during COVID. What better way to be with you and just bring all the passion and energy to your own podcast? So thanks for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
Thank you for coming. I'm glad you made the journey, and I wanted to start off with a little "We Are
Penn State."
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So I got to ask, I'm curious, is there any special occasions why you're in town? Because I know, Boston's a good, what is it, like 8-hour drive? Honestly.
Yeah, it depends on the traffic in Connecticut getting through there, but it's not too bad. It's pretty straight. Actually, I took the train. Pretty convenient.
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to go up there, you just go into Philly, you get into Philly, and then you make your way up to Boston. It's probably about 7 hours or so.
Okay.
But the reason why I'm here this weekend is it's my sister's 16th birthday.
Whoa.
Little sister Megan.
Milestone for sure, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like just yesterday she was just a little girl watching me play basketball. And now she's up in high school. She's working now. She's playing sports. So
phenomenal.
Big year. Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, and she goes for her permit test on Tuesday.
Whoa.
That's all she's been talking about.
Is she stressing?
Nervous.
Is she nervous?
Yeah. Because she knows. I told her when I was that age, it was like you have all your different tests, your school tests. Something about that test, I was so nervous about because you knew once you got your license, everything, the freedom started.
Right.
My friends were getting it, so she's like, I just need this. I need to get this. So
exactly.
She's excited.
That's great. Yeah. That's crazy because you say how you're feeling older. I remember, when you were in high school, basketball and being an athlete like you were and taking pictures, and now that you're living in Boston, graduated from Penn State, it's like, wow, dude, time flies. It's crazy.
I know. Getting close to the big 3-0.
Yeah.
Which I just can't believe.
Yeah.
But
I just turned last October.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting up there.
It's crazy, dude.
I remember sitting next to you like on the bus, elementary school.
Oh, that's way back.
Yeah, and then I'm picking up my sister who was on Friday after school, and I'm just like, my gosh, where's the time went?
Yeah.
Just comes before your eyes. You start to forget as you keep getting older. You get to a big city. Once you come back, it comes back to you. Like the memories, you're just like, my God, look at everything I've done the past few years. Like I was nervous about this before. Now my new nerves are about stuff that I wasn't even thinking about at that age. So
exactly,
it flies by after school.
Yeah, and your priorities change. Yeah, and your stresses change. You're like, you're worried about those tests or getting that driver's permit, then your license and stuff. And it's like, man, that was small stuff. I know. Compared to
you don't even think about it now.
You don't. You really don't.
Just work, routine, and you're like every day just mashes together. Especially lately, past few years, you just get so stuck up on it, but. No, man, I'm pumped to be here. I'm glad you got me on here and be here for about a week. So just looking forward to just being home.
Nice. Yeah.
I'll be home for about a week or two sometimes, and I'm like, all right, I have my fun, ready to go back up to Boston.
Yeah.
So you like it up there.
Is this kind of like a retreat? You come home to just get away from the party life? Because we'll talk about that a little bit later on the podcast.
Yeah, refresh a little bit, relax, forget about work for like a week or so, and then you get back into it, and then stress comes back. But happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's throw it back. You mentioned your family a little bit, and what was your early childhood and early life like? I'm talking like middle school, even early high school. What was that like for you? Yeah.
It was a lot of sports. I didn't really realize how much my life was revolved around like sports. Like everything I did, I played baseball since I was a kid. I played basketball since like second grade. That's all I was doing. I was playing on like travel teams. I was playing all different youth sports, figuring out like what I liked. So that was the majority of my life. And when I went into school, I knew I was like, I want to be professional in some sport. That's all I saw myself doing my whole life. I saw my height. I was smaller. I'm coming into like middle school, and I remember going into 7th grade, and we had like a tryout. 7th grade basketball. I was probably like 4'11" at the time.
Okay.
We have like these big guys from 9th grade I was playing against, and I was playing very well, like very confident. I remember getting pulled aside afterwards saying, would you want to try out for the 9th grade team? And I'm thinking like, are we allowed to do that? We can skip grades like that and play hoops? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking like, you mean 8th grade, right? They're like, no, you want to play freshman basketball. So that like consumed my life then. I ended up playing freshman hoops when I was 7th grade. I look back at pictures now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was tiny. But I played on that team for like 3 different years on the freshman team until I eventually got into high school. But that consumed me, the sports. Baseball I was always doing. I was always with friends like in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But you really realize older you get, we'll be going to like trivia nights in Boston, and you have all these different categories, and they know that I'm terrible at trivia.
Yeah.
Once the sports category comes on, they look at me. They're like, okay, now you can actually help.
Right.
But I didn't realize like everything I did was so consumed in athletics.
Right. That was your life. That was your life.
Yeah.
And I remember, so just to kind of, for all the listeners out there, Colortech Creative Solutions Studios also has Blue Cardinal Photography, which covers local high school sports. So I'm one of the photographers. I would go out and photograph team and individual pictures and then the action shots. And I remember, certain athletes would stick out in your head. And it was always like yourself, Isaiah Trimble. You didn't have the height,
Isaiah.
but you had the skill, and you played, I think, more than you were, honestly.
Yeah.
Like watching
Yeah.
you guys play was like adrenaline rush for me, and I'm just there taking pictures. You guys really balled out back then, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, seriously. As you're in high school, and it can be friends or coaches, but did you have any mentors or anyone that you looked up to?
Yeah, and I know you had on Coach Bear in the first episode.
Yep.
So he was a big mentor of mine growing up, because now that you mentioned that, I was also doing track and field, and I remember he was the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
He would call me because I was doing basketball, baseball in the spring. Track just fell in the same season as the spring sports. Mm-hmm. He would call almost every year, leave a voicemail like on our main phone, trying to get me to go out for the track team. And I probably would have if it was like a different season. But that always stuck with me. I knew like he did so much hard work trying to really recruit that team. He found talent like a young age. Mm-hmm. My sister's she was doing the same thing when she was my age. So he was huge. And then we had, if you know, Coach Dissinger.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Dissinger, I remember back when I was in first grade, I was the water boy for the varsity team.
Yeah.
I remember watching those guys like Roger Castlegran, Jared Kleinfelter. They call him Lou.
Yeah.
He's one of the assistant coaches now. Mm-hmm. So I remember that like yesterday, being like the water boy. And then Coach Dissinger, as I kept getting older and older, he found his way involved with like every sport somehow in Cedar Crest.
Yeah.
Now he's the athletic director.
Yep.
So you had Coach Stee, you had Coach Bear, and then Coach Groff was another big one for me. Coach Groff, at a young age, taught me so much about discipline, love for baseball. As I got into like that 7th grade, he was actually a 9th grade coach. So I played with Coach Groff then, playing with like a bunch of bigger guys. Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot about just like the self-discipline, making yourself tougher, how to play bigger on the court. That helped me as I progressed out of school.
Yeah.
Those like 3 mentors for like coaching, and obviously at home, like I looked up to my dad a lot too. He always pushed me a lot through school, through sports. Those experiences, what I learned, I am so thankful for it, because it really goes back to when I went into college, started working now. I really use like that same athletic discipline. You learn so much about life in sports. So a lot to give back to those guys.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And those are 3 great mentors there.
Oh, yeah. And he's the principal now.
Yeah.
Groff.
Yeah, he is.
So everyone kind of grew.
Exactly.
Over the years. It's just amazing to see.
It's neat. Yeah, exactly. It's neat to see that. And all 3 great guys. And I always, again, going in for pictures at Cedar Crest and the track and field team, Coach Bear knowing me so well, and my wife Courtney, because that's how we kind of met through track, and just how inspiring he is and what he's been through.
Extremely.
So I definitely recommend people that are listening, if you haven't heard episode 1, check that out. Rob Baer, phenomenal. And he even wrote a book, Braving Your Adversity.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
It's like it's amazing, you know. It's very motivational and definitely emotional, but it's a good read. So
Definitely.
you mentioned your father was all your family supportive of you being an athlete back in high school and pushing that?
Yeah. It's like, it was just, that's all I really did. They supported whatever sport. I think my dad could clearly see like what my strengths were, and he knew like basketball, like that's all I did in the off season. Like I was waking up in the summer.
You loved it.
If I wasn't working, I was shooting. Like there wasn't a day like where I didn't practice. So very supportive, was pushed a lot, but it also helped me do very well in school because all I wanted to do was get good grades to go to like a big Division I school.
Okay.
So that's all I did. And then when I got hurt my junior year, I remember it was like the 4th game of the season and I broke my wrist. Those that were there probably remember. Like I like snapped that thing back.
Whoa.
So my season was over. That's a big season in sports because you're getting recruited. The scouts are there. So I kind of knew in that moment it affected me like mentally, physically, watching the rest of the season, coming back just scared of that feeling if it were to happen again. It affected my senior year a lot, but it also was like, all right, there is more to life than just sports. Ended up going to Penn State then for just academics, like club sports. So, yeah, there was a lot of life lessons learned, but they were very supportive, like my whole life with it. And as my sister now is getting into like her 16th birthday, she's like, it's crazy. I hear they're like, it literally looks like you with a ponytail playing out there.
Wow.
I just see like the same things. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like she plays hard. So I'm happy to see that I had some kind of like an impact on her. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that's phenomenal. I mean, I think the more you can kind of leave your mark or inspire others or teach others, you know, the better, you know, for sure. And so you hinted at college. I saw you went to Penn State, I think main campus?
Main campus.
Oh, wow. How was that?
It was good. Yeah, I applied to Penn State. And if you don't get in the main campus, you go like a branch campus. You would do like the 2+2. But I'm like, no, I want to do GPA is good. Let's get my SATs as best as possible. I want to get in first year and just have like the best resume possible. But I only applied to there, and I had like an application come through for like a free one to St. John's in Queens, New York.
Okay.
That's it. I didn't apply anywhere else.
Whoa.
I mentioned my dad's like a big Villanova fan too, with like the coach Jay Wright, who had just retired. And the application fee was like $100. So he's just like, stick with these options for now. He said, I would rather you just, do you really want to go to Villanova? Because it's very expensive. If not, let's hold off on like the fees. But got there. It feels like yesterday. It's already been, this is 10 years officially since I started this August.
Wow.
So we had a great time, a lot of pride, passion. It's a big football school, as I'm sure you're aware.
Oh, yeah.
I miss it every day.
Yeah. So when you first got on campus, what's it like? So, you know, I went myself a year at Kutztown. I'll quick go into a little side story here. I went to Kutztown for graphic arts because, again, here at Colortech, we have graphic designers and we do some printing and the photography end of it. And I thought, well, I'm going to be this graphic designer. So I went to Kutztown. I did track and field. I was a thrower. For those that know me, I'm not built like a hurdler or a long jump or anything like that. So I went there for graphic design, and I realized that these people that are going into the graphic design field, and Kutztown's well known for their arts, these people are like magicians. They are very good. They're very skilled at their craft. And the one art class, it was drawing 101, you know, and I can draw the hell out of a stick figure, I'll be honest with you. You know, I can really do that. But when it came to drawing fruit and vases in the middle of the room, I'm like, wow, this isn't for me. And I kind of realized, okay, come back to the family business. I got my degree from Harrisburg Area Community College, or HAC, locally. So I never got the full experience, you might say, or the party experience. I think Penn State is maybe like top 5 or something for party schools. There. Yeah, it's up there pretty high. So what was it like when you first got on campus? You know, how did you meet with friends and get those connections? You said you were in some sports as well.
Yeah. I got there. I remember that feeling when my parents officially left. You just get so used to that, just them being around your whole life. I remember going downtown to get like my books that first day, and they were gone. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on my own now. Like it just was scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's very overwhelming at first. It's a huge campus. As the years progress, you realize everything's like it's on like the same 2 streets downtown. The campus, you start to get to know it pretty quickly, but it's a massive, beautiful campus. I lived on the west campus of Penn State, which is like back in the day that like was like the main campus. The football stadium was where I used to live. So that was like very common back in the day. As the years progressed, their east side, like the east campus of Penn State, all the freshmen wanted to live there. That like was freshman village basically.
Okay.
I wanted to be in West Campus, but it worked out for me. A lot of the athletes lived there, so that's all the athlete jerseys. So it took me a while to be like, okay, it's all right. You don't have to be an athlete. As much as I wanted to be them, and I'll keep seeing that. They were great kids, like the soccer team, wrestlers, volleyball. Because right next door was Rec Hall, like very historic stadium.
Yeah.
They now play at Bryce Jordan Center. But Rec Hall, we used to lift there. You go into that gym, just work out. You could see like that incredible volleyball team, women's team.
Yes, very good. Yeah, they're excellent.
Yeah, so it just, and especially like I remember that first football Saturday where you go as a kid.
What was that like? Yeah. To be there. Yeah.
It was just so overwhelming. All the students, like the tailgating and like you're meeting friends very quickly. We have like in this area, a lot of students in our area go to Penn State.
Yeah.
Very common. So we had a lot of like the Cedar Crest kids where we went to high school. They were there. We had like that core group. And then as like that, you started to figure out, all right, what else do I want to do to meet more people? So I started getting involved in like club powerlifting. I did club tennis. I did club basketball. I got involved, and we could talk about this more, but I got involved with the fraternity life.
Okay.
Business fraternity. So
Yeah.
that was Delta Sigma Pi. So I'm like, all right, let me try to go out for something. I don't think I'm really like Greek life per se, but it was co-ed, professional business fraternity. It can help me maybe network, meet more people. So I did that, and that really took up my time, my first year. But I look back at that. A lot of people that I know to this day, connections I've had, jobs I've gotten referred to, go back to DSP.
Wow.
Yeah.
So life in a fraternity, I would Googled a little bit, and U.S. News did an annual survey that the average proportion of undergraduate males who joined a fraternity in fall of 2020, which again, that was, COVID. So these numbers could be skewed, but they said roughly it was about 8%, of males, undergraduates are in fraternities. So what is that like? Because I know sometimes there's a lot of stigmas just across the board. It's funny, my cousin on my dad's side goes down. She's in a sorority down in Alabama. She went to Alabama. So
that must be fun.
Oh, I always see the pictures, and it's like, man, they're living the high life.
Do they have houses?
It's like mansions, dude. I'm
The
talking.
sororities have houses?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Yep,
because I know up north you can't. The sorority.
Oh, see, I don't know all of it, but I know she
Yeah.
does. I think it's something like, I forget, like I think roughly 90 girls or women, living it.
Yeah.
And then once you can only stay there for a year though, and then you have to get out and get an apartment or something. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm like, man, she's just living like the fantasy world. And don't get me wrong, she studies hard. She's getting great grades. Not trying to bash her at all.
You said Alabama?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Bama.
So she's living up for college football.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they dress in like the sundresses. You dress to the nines. You're not wearing like a sweatshirt and just going casual.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But so what was that like for you? What were your experiences? And then who maybe did you meet any key people while you were in the fraternity that like you're still buddies with today, like good friends?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. So ours, it was co-ed, so it's a little bit different.
Okay.
But you would call each other brothers, so it could get a little confusing.
Yeah.
So I started that my very first semester. I pledged, which was a lot because I had my classes on top of that. You have to take a language on top of that too. So I took Chinese. I had Mandarin Chinese. So I'm learning how to write characters. There's like simplified and traditional. And I'm like, I should just go traditional. That makes more sense. It was actually more complicated. So not only was I pledging the fraternity, I would get made fun of because I'd be on like my app called Skritter.
Okay.
And I'd be studying and writing characters and whatnot. Because I wanted to do I took French in high school, but I'm like, you know what? I want to challenge myself. Maybe I'll do like international business as like a minor in travel. So it made sense to me at the time. I mean, I ended up doing pretty well in it, but it was like a 5-credit class that was only 4.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 5 days a week, which is rare in college, especially at a big campus. And we had tests and quizzes like every day. And I'm telling you, as soon as we got in there, it was we're starting until the bell rings and then you leave. Like, it was very strict, but that was just having that and just like being like in the fraternity. I got involved with that. I pledged. It was like a 8 to 12 week process. I got initiated in that fall of 2012, and then that very first spring semester, you can bring on like a little, where you're like the big.
Okay. Yep.
So I remember I didn't even go to the big little mixer to meet anybody.
Yeah.
And the one kid who's like one of my best friends now, Josh Bruno's his name. I guess he had heard like funny stories about me, that I was just like, you know, like the athlete guy or whatnot. He just seemed interested. So he's just like, I want JD to be my big. So never even met the kid. I get a call from the pledge education, what they call it, like the pledge ed. He's like, hey, do you want to have a little? I'm like, I didn't go to the mixer. He said, well, someone put you as their number one.
Whoa.
I remember walking through campus. I'm like, interesting. I said, what's his name? He's like, oh, it's Josh. I said, all right. I mean, I'll meet the kid, see if if it's the right fit. And then we got along very well. And then I helped him through like his pledging process. And then as we kept getting like through school, like for me, honestly, I was so consumed with club sports and with schoolwork. Like I wasn't as active as I wanted to be after my first year.
Right.
I just wanted to do well in school, get a good job. But we were both like on the same page. We're kind of like, we'll go to stuff when we can, but we got to stay focused on our academics. So like we ended up being roommates then, like my senior year. So that was great. Just kind of like showing like the DSP, kind of like the bond you can grow with that. And I think now like he's in DC and he's visited Boston already. So just it was just cool just meeting the friends through there. Just really good connections, and a lot of them, for being international, you can just meet so many people, and they come in from like international students that were in it. We had a kid that was a professional golfer from Bangladesh.
Whoa.
And he wanted to go play at Penn State, but they found out he was professional overseas, so he wasn't allowed to play. But he was in my pledge class. Another guy, his grandpa owns like a diamond mine over in Hong Kong.
What?
So I'm just like, you serious?
Yeah.
So I'm just
That's
like, let me stay
crazy.
close with these guys.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
it won't work out with business and I can go work with a diamond company. But yeah, man, I look back now, I'm like, wow, DSP really did a lot for me professionally, and just like the social aspect was fun. But we didn't have a house.
Okay.
It was like apartments we go to. By our bylaws, we couldn't have it. The one above us, it was like called AK Psi. They had one, but we just switch off, like who would like host events.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, fraternities, it's all new to me. Obviously, I wasn't in one. Business aspect, how does that tie in, and what do they do to help you? I know, like you said, you met a lot of connections, but that's almost at any fraternity. So
Yep.
what does the business part,
Yep.
what does that do for you?
We had a lot of professional events. You had like your requirements you had to hit in any like fraternity. So like we had like our normal like pledging events. When I was a brother, you'd have like a new pledge class every semester. They had like the professional chair that was in charge of that. So they would bring in all kinds of companies would come in for like networking events, speaking events. It was very impressive, the connections they got. And a lot of it has to do with how long Penn State's chapter was in existence. So like previous brothers alumni would like come speak.
Okay.
They would come to like our big like career fairs, and they would know like this is a DSP brother. Go speak to he or she, because just like if you know someone, it helps a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Aspect. So
Oh yeah.
networking was huge, but we had all kinds of companies come in. A big thing with us was you kind of had like your different like marketing, supply chain, economics here and there. Ours was really big in accounting. You had like the accounting, you go into the MAC program. That's the Masters of Accounting program. Probably like half of our chapter was in that. So they all wanted to go to the big four. So that was like your PwC, Ernst & Young, Deloitte. That's what I wanted to do originally, watching those brothers. But I'm like, you know what? It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like reading numbers, matching up.
Right.
That's why I got into like marketing instead. But learning from those chats, those talks, it helped me realize when I was coming my junior year, I want to be more creative, be a marketer. Although I'm not bad at accounting, it's just not me.
Yeah.
So just talking to them, it helped me figure out like my career path.
Especially like after high school and then college, you kind of realize like, okay, I have to find something. Hopefully you love it, but at least you like to do it.
Yeah.
And that's your life, So you
Yeah.
have to go that way. So would you say what are you passionate about? And then did that help you in your career path and choosing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, you like really don't. If someone comes into college saying, I know exactly what I want to do, that's either they're making it up or that's just very rare. Because you still, like to this day, you're kind of like, is this actually like my passion? Because like I work now like full time. But at the time, it was still the same thing. I wanted to be marketing business of some kind of sports team, NBA team, MLB. That was still like my mindset because I knew like it was my strength with sports. So you just kind of like understood, all right, maybe like there's more to it than just sports. I met a lot of connections through like DSP, other like club teams. And I remember we went to like the career fair and it just seemed like so like forced, just like the talks. I'm like, you know what? I just don't really want to do that. Just be like behind a desk. So funny story, my one of my buddies, he actually worked with Bridgestone Firestone as like an intern. So I kind of heard feedback from him because it's just like, that's kind of different. I know nothing about a car, so I had to drive it.
Yeah.
And they came to the career fair. I talked to them, mentioned my buddy was a previous intern. So that actually got me into, they put you in like an actual like automotive store, which was just like, all right, well, I'm doing like a marketing degree. This has nothing to do with it, but I did it. I liked it. I learned a lot about like vehicles, automotive. I liked who I worked with. So you just started to like develop a passion for that. And that's actually what got me up into Boston with Bridgestone.
Okay.
So got like a new passion and whatnot. I still always go back to sports, but as you'll kind of like hear more about me, like music was always big for me too with like sports. So through that all, music was always like kind of like my like escape, kind of like my refreshment. You just kind of like, it was like your own like medicine. So I knew as I was doing that, and now as I'm at my age and kind of what I do now, like music and everything was just above all, just like help me in like the toughest times and just help me like grow and just keep like my mind and body just like focus, I should say.
Yeah, I totally agree when you reference the music, because I remember even still now when I go again back to take pictures, whether it's for a football, like a Friday night football game, or for basketball, in a baseball now starting to do it, and they play like the hype music.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I know it gets the players in the zone, but even myself and I'm sure the fans, some of them, because some of the music now, your father or grandfather, they're not going to understand it, but it gets
changed
you,
a lot.
It gets you in the zone, mentally, and it gets you ready for that game. So okay, so you go up to Boston, Massachusetts, which I've never been. I'd love to go sometime.
Oh, you got to come up.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously, I'd love to. You got a place I can stay if I come up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
We got connections.
I'll run it by my wife first.
We got some space at our place.
Oh, seriously. I'd love to. I'd love to just check it out.
Yeah.
But how was the transition from, Penn State, you were in the fraternity, got a great group of buddies with you, and now you're going again, kind of flipping the switch, going up to Boston, where I'd imagine for you, because you're born and raised here in Lebanon, this is a whole new experience. So what was that like?
It was scary. It was pretty scary. I remember I was leaving. I did 6 months in the Catalyst program for Bridgestone at Penn State right after I graduated. It's like 2017 winter into the summer. I ended up getting the call to move up. In that particular, it was like July or so. And I remember talking to the guy. He said, hey, if you want to come up to Boston, I can get you in a store here. I can get you here in 2 weeks. And I'm like, 2 weeks? How am I going to do that? So luckily, my buddy, who like I'm roommates with now, best friend of Penn State, Joe, he grew up in the area. He was working there. So I called him and I said, hey, I'm looking for a place to live. Can you help me at all? And he's like, oh, well, I'm still with my parents. Just moving with us in the meantime. So I'm like, I can't do that. And his parents like, no, we have a guest room. So like I was lucky. It was like my second family.
Yeah.
They welcomed me in. I remember leaving Penn State and I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm like, I'm really going for this. Packed up everything in my Ford Fusion. Okay. Like I didn't have a U-Haul or anything. It was stacked to the top.
Yeah.
I drive. It's like probably 5-6 hour drive from Penn State. I remember getting there and I'm just like, oh man, this is scary. Like in this big city. But I was lucky to have like Joe, a couple other of my buddies from like the Penn State area were also in Boston. Mm-hmm. Very common to be like in Philly, New York City, Boston with Penn State grads. So I got there and I remember, I think I was just like probably just so nervous from like that first starting date. I was kind of going a little bit faster than I wanted to. I remember I got there on a Friday. That Monday I started. It's like we saw the city that weekend. I'm driving to work that Monday, have my GPS in, have no clue where I'm going to get to this Bridgestone, which was like, it was like a 45-minute commute when I first moved there. And I'm driving like this back way, and I'm going like 45. And then I see these lights turn on. I'm like, oh no. I've never been pulled over before. So this cop gets me, and he just like, you know what you did? I said, not really. I was going like 40, 45. He said, oh, well, it's a little bit tricky. It goes from a 45 to a 25. I said, well, it's my first Monday. I'm a little nervous for work. And he's like, let me go check my computer. I'll be right back. Comes back. So, you know, here's your citation. If you want to challenge it, you have like this many days. And I'm like, dude, not even like a break?
I know.
Like my first day.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say he'd give you a break.
No. But he probably saw the PA plate. I had the Yankees plate in the front.
Ooh.
So they take that pretty seriously.
I thought so,
yeah. Boston cop. But that was my first experience. And I was just like, all right, well, and it never happened again. Never been pulled over since. But I remember that day so clearly. And I lived with Joe. After that, his parents were just like laughing about that story. We still talk about it. And did my first 2 months with them. And then I ended up moving into an area called Allston, Massachusetts. It's like basically the Boston zip code. Mm-hmm. It's right outside the city. It's like a small radius in Boston. New York's so big. Boston's like, if you get there, if you live in like Allston, Brighton area, Newton, Watertown is the names of the towns, you can get like anywhere in like 15 minutes. So I was basically like where like Fenway Park is, not far. I was in Allston and then ended up moving into Brighton most recently, just a town over. But we love it up there. It's so clean. There's one thing I'll say. I don't know. You notice that?
Yeah.
They take such good care of it, like the public workers. And you just notice you go into like the expensive areas, you're like, it's just so clean in the city. It's beautiful.
I think it's with Boston. And again, I've never been there, but to me, I just picture they're very proud people. You know, they're very proud of what they have.
Very sports proud.
Definitely. What comes to mind, my wife and I have been kind of binge watching Survivor.
Oh,
totally off topic, but Boston Rob's in that.
Yeah,
and he always wears the hat and everything. And, you know, you could just see the passion with him in Survivor. And I'm like, so that's kind of what I guess Boston's like, you know, and of course with the accents, right? They all have kind of like an accent or a tone to it.
You'd be surprised. Not all do.
Okay.
Joe's mom, very heavy.
Yeah.
Like she's just like, you got to bring your credit card. Like she's like very like thick.
Yeah.
But most, that's what I was told. Like you have like this, they're going to be complete, very angry on the road, which that kind of part's true. Mm-hmm. They are. Yeah. But in person, when you get them off the road, like you'll be driving and they're like, oh, I'll do this to you and whatnot. But when you're off the road, then everyone's so nice and like sweet. And I remember my first month or two, they'd be like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, oh, your accent. I said, no, you have an accent. I don't have an accent.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I can tell. I'm like, well, they're like, you close to Philly? I'm like, yeah. They're like, we can hear it.
Really?
It's like the A's and O's.
Okay.
They're just like the hard R, like the R.
Yeah.
But that, I don't get it as much anymore. And you start saying some things without trying. You'd be like, oh, I live in Boston. But you don't try it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you just kind of like, you get used to like the culture, but I can tell like that accent has moved out a lot. It's a lot of like outsiders moving into the city now.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, so you get up there to Boston, learning, you know, you're finding your way around and getting that taken care of. So then kind of who got you started in your music career? Because when I saw on Instagram, we connected and I'm like, and of course I've known you since high school and I'm like, JD is a DJ?
JD
like,
DJ.
Yeah. I was like, what's going on? You know, I've always known you as a sports guy because that, and you know, as high school is what you kind of were as part of you. So how did you get started in music and who kind of pushed you that way or guided you that way?
Yeah, it's very interesting, unique story. This would have been, I remember I had just gotten back from a Bridgestone trip to Nashville. It was like a store manager training. Mm-hmm. This would have been 2019, winter. I remember coming back and Joe, who he was roommates at that time with me. He'd finally moved out of his parents. He lived with me in the Allston area. And we started talking about like, hey, we always talk about doing like something different, like a business, maybe like a restaurant or something. We got along very well. He's just like, we're driving to Sonic the one night, which now it's no longer there. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess they're putting a Dunkin' Donuts there, which is ironic because Dunkin's all over like Boston.
Right.
We're driving there. He's just like, what if we did something like unique, like a comedy page? Because we were always doing funny stuff, funny videos in Penn State. I had all this content of us just like being crazy in the area. And I was like, you know, I wouldn't be opposed. I don't have much of a plan, but maybe we could do it. And then we're like, what would be a good name though as we're driving? And then he's just like, well, we always call Boston Beantown, right? Which, it's just kind of like, why? There's like different like stories behind it. It was very heavy into like the bean trade, like back in the day.
Okay.
There was like a big event they had of like some artwork, if I'm correct, that showed like a bean pot. So like beans were like popular, hence the name Beantown started. It's like, what about the BeanTownBoys? So that's how it started on a drive to Sonic, my favorite place to eat.
Yeah.
I was in high school, I love Sonic. And we did this comedy page, and it was very guy humor, I would say. Did it for like 6 months or so, and then we try to do something like every day, and it was impossible with like no structured plan.
It's tough.
It was really hard. We just were like, well, this is funny to some people, but some were like, this is just very like dry humor. We did that, and then we get into that summer of 2019, and that's when Joe brought up, hey, what'd you ever think about like music? And I'm just like, well, what do you mean? I'm just like, you mean like producing? I'm like, I've tried, at Penn State, I actually tried producing a little bit, like for fun. I said, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. This is very complicated. Like, it's not easy. You can't just pick it up, producing music.
Right.
And he's like, no, I mean more like the DJing, like mixing, playing. And I'm like, you know what? Never really thought about that. I said, I wouldn't be opposed, like using the BeanTownBoys name. He's like, yeah. I said, all right, let's think about it. Summer goes, we're talking more about it, kind of like a plan with it. I remember we just went for it and ordered equipment. And we're just like, what are we doing? Ordering this expensive equipment. And it was in the mail. Go figure, I went to Vegas the first time, that Labor Day. So it was perfect timing. We go to Vegas, me, Joe, one of his friends, and we're watching like some of the biggest DJs and artists at some of these like pool parties. And I'm watching and I'm like, wow, that looks awesome. Like, I would love to do that one day. Came back, all this excitement on that Monday, that Labor Day. The equipment came in that day, and we're looking at it out of the box, and we're just like, what did we just do? We have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
But we're like, you know what? Let's try. We looked it up, found some like articles. We met this guy online, DJ Phil Harris, his name, Phil Harris. He's out of like the UK where he DJs. So his videos are very popular, like on YouTube and Instagram. We actually started, we got onto his website, enrolled into his classes, started learning the DJing mixing. And that took us like a long way. We started like actually playing at like a couple apartment parties that fall. So we were so nervous. We had no clue if this is what we were supposed to do. We got good feedback. And then we get into like the winter. We're like, dude, we can actually do this. We started like the content on social media. And that's when it got into 2020. And we could talk more about this, but we got into like 2020 and everything got shut down. We were just about to open. Somehow we got like in touch with a promoter. He's like, would you want to open for a DJ right where like where the Garden is, like where the Celtics play?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, wow, I don't know if we can do that, but okay. And that week is when everything happened with the pandemic. So they got shut down. So it never happened, but it just showed like if you just put like the time in, even for like that short a period of time, we're like, wow, we got an opener in like 8 months doing this. So
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. It is when you put your mind to it, how quickly things can kind of fall into place for you, especially if it's something you're passionate about. So you went out to Vegas. You saw all these different DJs and musicians.
Yeah, Tiesto, DJ Snake, Marshmello.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So do you have like a favorite? Like for instance, and this is kind of maybe throwing it back, but some ones that come to my mind, like Mike Stud or there was Huey Mack.
I just watched him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
First time live.
I saw
Awesome show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's still around. I know he used to do a lot more. Oh, there was another
Yeah,
one
like the
that's
college rap scene.
Yeah. Correct. So were those kind of guys you were looking up to or looking into, like, okay, how are they doing this? You know? Yeah.
Mike Stud was big for me because he was an athlete as well. His story is he went to Duke University. He was a really good pitcher.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So his real name's Michael Seamer, went by Mike Stud. He got hurt from pitching with like his elbow. I think he still holds the lowest ERA in Duke's history. So he was like a top MLB prospect at the time. Ended up getting the Tommy John surgery, changed his whole career. He was making music and rapping behind the scenes. So he had like his first couple like YouTube like music videos. You're like, wow, this guy is like Mr. Party. Like all the athletes were there. He's got girls everywhere. But that was like he had to find his identity again. So I looked up to Mike a lot, and it was just convenient that I just literally 2 weeks ago went to his show in Boston.
Yeah.
Been wanting to watch him for years and watch his show. He was so good engaging the crowd. It's like, that's a big one. But I'll tell you the other one, which you're going to laugh about. But after the show, then we go to this place called The Greatest Bar in Boston, which is right near like where the Garden is. and it's actually the Penn State alumni bar. So I've been there a lot. I'm like, let's just go to the greatest bar afterwards. It's just, it was like a Tuesday night. It's like 10:30, the show was over. And then I see the opener come in, this guy named Skis, he's making music with. Mm-hmm. So I met the Skis guy. I was like, dude, what's up, man? I met him, talked to him, we took some pictures. I said, is Mike coming? And he's like, no, he's not going to make it out tonight. And like an hour or so passed. All of a sudden you see somebody like his crew come in, but not Mike. I'm like, maybe he'll still show up yet. And then lo and behold, you see this taller guy, he's pretty tall, with his hood on, which is common for celebrities to just keep the privacy. He came in, I'm just like, man, as much as I want to go talk to him, I just don't want to be that guy. So, but we're on like the second floor of this greatest bar. It's a massive bar. And I guess he used to go there all the time, like his college days. Okay. So they all knew him.
Well, how could you not? I mean, with a name like the greatest bar, that's awesome.
I know. It's very cool.
Yeah.
But there's like a basketball game, so I had to go have some fun. I'm shooting on this basketball game on this bar, and right next to us is like where Mike's sitting, like his buddies. So I didn't want to like approach him too much and annoy him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like people guarding him. But it's for a brief second, I just looked, he looked, I just gave him a head nod, and that was enough for me.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So Mike Stud, big time. Now he just goes by Mike, just Mike period.
Okay.
The other one, anyone that knows me well, especially in my college days, I love the Riff Raff.
The Riff Raff?
Riff Raff. I remember watching, big fan of Rob Dyrdek's show, Ridiculousness, on MTV.
Uh-huh.
You ever watched it? Riff Raff came on. I'm like, who is this guy? What is he doing? He had a wad of cash in his hand. He had like a zigzag beard. And I loved his personality because he was so unique. I see nobody like him. And he's just like, why do you got cash with you? He said, just in case I got to make a down payment on a car. And he's just like, this guy is just, and I'm watching his music videos on YouTube. I'm like, this guy is something else. Like his lyrics are just out of this world, just like nuts, but it's so funny. It kept like listening to his music during college. It kept the humor alive. It made me happy because he was just being himself.
Yeah.
So anyone just like, why are you listening to this guy? He's a clown, man. Like I used to hear. But then I started getting like more people listening to him. Like he had like some pretty good like music tracks, like featured artists. Mm-hmm. And he was a really good athlete too. So it also goes back to it. Most don't know that.
Yeah.
His cousin is Mac McClung, who played for Georgetown, went to Texas Tech. Now he's in the NBA, like playing. He's on the bench.
Yeah.
But he was like this like 6'1", 6'2" white kid who could jump out of the gym.
Wow.
Like he could dunk, put it behind his back and dunk. So Riff Raff and Mike, man, anyone that knows me knows like those were my guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. The other one came to my mind because Courtney and I actually went to one of their concerts. Time Flies.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Which
they're back together.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they kind of met, I think, as just two buddies, college or something.
Yeah.
But we went to see them.
Rez and then
Philly.
Cal.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I used to follow them a lot, and we had some of their merch. Like again, this couple years back, but I saw they had that falling out. So they're back together.
They're back together. Rez was an incredible producer. Like he went to school for it.
Okay.
Cal was just so talented. His voice. That was like my like high school, college days. Like Time Flies, Mike Stud. You had Riff Raff. Time Flies came to Penn State like a free concert at our hub center. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I don't know how much of it like he like pre-wrote, but I remember someone gave him a hat that just he put up on stage and he just pulled out random stuff that had to do with Penn State. And he made a freestyle like rap like on the spot. And it was incredible.
Nice. Yeah.
If it was pre-written, I don't know, but I've seen him make remixes, freestyles, and it is not easy. I've tried it before.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in a group, you all kind of try to like rap with each other, like freestyle. Not my gift at all, but I love their music. I remember I knew they made it when we had the big Thon dance marathon at Penn State. It's like that big 48-hour marathon. You stand up, you don't sleep for 48 hours at our big Bryce Jordan Center. It's all for cancer. And I remember their track was like the very first track of the night. This All the Way song by Time Flies.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that's awesome. I think they performed since then, but they like just got back like a month or two ago. So stay tuned. I'm excited to hear them again.
That's good to know. I'm definitely going to have to check that out because, when they split, I was like, oh, okay. But I did like their music,
Yeah, they were getting big.
Definitely
and it just split like that.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't understand what had happened. So you had those people that you looked up to or you wanted to kind of emulate. I've noticed following you on social media, you've played a lot of bars, restaurants, and clubs. What was maybe one of the biggest places you've ever played for, and roughly how many people were in attendance?
I actually think it was our very first show, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And this would have been about a year ago. Only about a year ago, we started playing. So this is very recent.
Oh, wow.
We were going to play, and then COVID hit. Mm-hmm. So that's why we turned to production in 2020. We're like, we can't play at a club. Let's start producing.
Yeah.
That started that journey. And then I had just finished a Penn State podcast January of 2021 about similar kind of like college life and like the BeanTownBoys and what it was all about, because she had no one on her podcast. It's like our alumni director. She stays in touch with like business alumni. She's like, so you got a marketer and an engineer that are making music. This is unique.
Yeah.
We did that, and I said, all right, now that we did that, it's like some exposure for our brand. I said, let's just go full out, just like black out social media. Like, don't even touch it. Let's focus on our craft for DJing. So we did that. We had like nothing posted for like 6 months or so. And then all of a sudden, Boston opened back up. This was like, May of 2021. And we had like our first opportunity. I remember we actually we got asked to play in a silent disco in the back of a van. That's how we started.
Okay.
So I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't us, man. He said, we got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
We did it. We're playing. You have like the headphones on. Everyone's dancing. But if you took it off, you're like, what are these guys doing? That was fun. We met this girl who was very well known, DJ Scowls. She hosts all these events throughout New England. She said, hey, I like you guys. You guys are obviously talented. What are you guys doing next Saturday? Like, I know a promoter that's looking for DJs for this place in Block Island.
Okay.
Have you ever been to Block Island?
No.
It's like off the coast of Rhode Island and Long Island, New York. It's sitting out there. You have to go down to like the Rhode Island area from Boston, take a ferry to Block Island,
Okay.
big tourist area.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and she tells us this. She's like, I'll get you in touch with the promoter. It was the next week. By Wednesday, he reaches out to us. We had like 2 days like prepare.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, I don't know if we can do this. I'm a little bit nervous. And he's just like, we got to just start.
Yeah.
Start. I'm like, all right. We get on the ferry. We get there. And I remember, I'm like, this club pretty big. We walk in to get dinner with like their team. And I'm just like, all right, this is a little nerve wracking. We go upstairs. We go get changed because like you stay upstairs at this place. It's been around like the 1800s, called Yellow Kitten's Tavern. We come downstairs later before the show, and it was packed. Like, there was probably like 300, 400, 500 people there, tops.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I don't know if like we can do this, but we actually ended up having a pretty good night. Mm-hmm. Like we did well. People were involved. We did a lot of good content that night, but we've had a lot of our shows since then in places called like the Middle East Club. That's in Cambridge area, Massachusetts. We played at Two Saints Tavern. It's like a university club quite a few times. We've had other opportunities, but I remember like that first show helped our confidence because that was like the biggest crowd we ever had at the time. Now we're going to try and get like, bigger venues and bigger venues. Mm-hmm. But I remember it's like sweating profusely before we're like meditating and everything, get ourselves like calm.
I was just going to ask.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to ask.
It's weird. First couple.
Yeah. When you're up there, DJing and before you come out or whatever, you're getting your mindset right. Like, what do? You get into like a different character, or like what's your mindset? And then once you start performing, how do you judge the crowd? Like, obviously I've been to concerts and things, so I know if people are singing, it must be good, but how do you judge that?
Yeah.
While you're up there?
We look back now and like the tools and tricks that we learned originally, kind of how you like transition, you like loop songs, and then once you like looping it, you like match the beat and you go into the next one. It was very like beginner style. So we look back now, we're like, I cannot believe we used to do that. But like, we got good feedback. No one really knows when they're out playing. If you're just playing good music, they're all drinking. Mm-hmm. They're not even really paying attention. So that was good. And then as we got into like the fall, we started learning more like the fundamentals, like the mindset. We met this guy named DJ Joshua Carl. Joshua Carl's been playing since the 80s in Boston.
Whoa.
Go figure, he teaches classes at this place called the Jam Zone. It's right outside of Boston. It's usually like a lot of like kids will come in. Kids like our age, like more like advanced DJ lessons. We learned from him, and he taught us like the art of that, kind of like how you don't come in DJing and you don't go right to like the highest paced songs, the fastest songs. You work your way into it throughout the night. And the goal is you also want to focus on here and there, putting in like a slower track. People kind of like, oh, what's this? Mm-hmm. It's actually a strategy, because then all of a sudden the bars will look back saying, why did we make so much more money that night? And you realize you get them to go back to the bar and get a drink.
Okay.
So it's a science behind it. It's like a wave. And then you kind of measure your BPM, the beats per minute, throughout the night. The goal is to keep everyone moving. You keep it, there's like cue points you have to match up. Once we learn the cue point system, you mark your beats. It's so easy to transition because the next song's coming in as the next one's finishing.
Yeah.
the crowd's still moving, they're still into it, and you want to keep them there where they're not too out of it, like too crazy by like 12, 1 a.m. so you can keep them as long as possible.
Right.
But if you go too hard, you'll notice you don't even think about it. People are leaving early because they're tired.
Yeah.
So it's an actual science, and I'm just like, I had no idea. You would just go to a venue or club before we started DJing. I was like, I don't care who's DJing. I just want to hear the music and get a drink.
Right.
Well, then as you start to learn from like experts like Josh, you're like, oh, wow, that makes sense. I always wondered, like, why would you put that on? But it gets you to stay and get another drink.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I never would have thought about that.
I know,
because I've been to some local bars around here, and they'll have music and DJs, and I'm like, okay, why you had this?
Think about it now.
You had this banger of a song, yeah. Now you have this slow song, but yeah, now I'm gonna think of
Yeah.
it. I gotta tell Courtney. I gotta be like, hey,
Other listeners, now I want you to know that. That's why we do it.
yeah, seriously,
Yeah.
there's a science to it, and I
Yeah.
never would have thought that.
Yeah.
Do you guys, this Beantown Boys, do you have any of your own music, or how can people kind of listen along?
Yeah. We that was something that also was pretty incredible. We weren't expecting when the pandemic hit. We started producing, like I said. So that would have been like around March, April. We just started 2020. By like that August, September, we had so much free time at the time.
Yeah.
Producing, watching classes. That same guy, Phil Harris from London. Listen
Shout
to all
out
his
Phil Harris.
courses. Phil Harris is great.
Yeah.
He's very knowledgeable in what he does. I produced a song. Our first song was called Big Mood. Joe produced a song called Yeah. So we had that. Another song called Silver Lining. It was very like instrumental. A couple of lyrics here and there. We didn't have like vocalists at the time. So it wasn't bad at the time, but we were on Spotify by like that August, which I'm like, how do you get on these platforms? Like, we'll never get there. It has to be complicated.
Yeah.
You just go through a process. You find like a distributor online. You have to get approved for it. It's like your record label per se. Like not like signed like into contract, but they usually distribute your music. You make certain like royalties off the music. So we did that, and we spoke to like a DJ who was he was actually a Penn State grad, and he was like in the New York area now DJing. And we asked him like, what do you think about our tracks? Like some feedback. He said, well, to be honest, I can tell you're new. It's very amateur. He said, but just keep working on your craft now, and then do that. He said, don't release anything for the next year. And then when you're ready, then put out new tracks. So first three, they're still on there. You can get them like on Apple Music. They're on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music. Our latest one we just released, this would have been maybe like a month or two ago, the song Get Ready. That's like a little more, you can just tell. Like the elements are there. It sounds like more professional, like you'd hear. So Joe's like more like the producer, like in our duo.
Okay.
He kind of teaches me everything. He's very technical. I'm more like the marketing and social media. But that Get Ready song, we went from we had like 5 listeners on Spotify before that. It goes by like the month.
Okay.
And when you're not releasing music, no one's on there.
True, right.
That increased it to, it was like 300, 400 listeners. And then the actual streams in the song were like close to 5,000. Like it wasn't bad. It's a good start.
Oh, yeah.
So we did that, and then as that traction helped, we look back at like our old remixes on YouTube, which you can still find, and we have like a Gasolina remix, like Daddy Yankee, back in middle school dances.
Yeah.
That got like 75,000 views. Wow. And then his Get Ready track, since there was the actual hype from like Spotify, that has like 30,000 views. So like it's pretty cool.
Those are some good numbers.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, seriously.
It's not bad. So we're trying to get now like actual vocalist on it.
Right.
But it's tough because it has to be what's in it for them too, because their brand name could be in jeopardy.
Yeah.
It's not like what they want to be released.
Right, for their image and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was that like? And to me, it's crazy how Penn State, I mean, talk about like the connections and everything.
Biggest alumni network in the world.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You got all the branch campuses too.
That's true.
So it's just such a big network.
And it's kind of like everybody knows everybody in some way.
Yep.
When he said, though, it's kind of amateur. I mean, it's kind of like a reality check, but at the same time, you probably appreciate it here.
It helped.
It helped,
I
yeah.
don't want someone to lie.
Right, yeah.
Because that'll never get you anywhere in music.
Exactly.
I'm like, you know what? And I listen back now, I'm like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I think for whether it's business or life in general, you don't want to surround yourself with a bunch of yes people that always say yes.
Exactly.
You know, like, hey, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. You know, you kind of want the feedback.
You need real
positive
people in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're up there doing your thing. You have a couple songs out. I guess you could maybe use the Penn State, the large network that they have to maybe find someone up in the area or close by to get some vocals.
Yeah.
Because I think that'd be huge for you guys. It sounds like the next step kind of from a production standpoint.
It's the next step. We actually, from like our last track, Get Ready, we had like an artwork campaign that we did.
Yeah.
We actually learned from, and it's an investment. Like Joe invested into the Phil Harris. We kind of split the cost for that.
Okay.
It's a yearly fee, being his classes. I take classes and I do like monthly Zoom calls with Clinton Sparks. So Clinton Sparks is like a world-known producer, DJ, grew out of Boston. So you got Clinton Sparks, Phil Harris, that's an investment. I learned from Rick Barker. Rick Barker was Taylor Swift's first manager. So Rick Barker, they all know each other at that level. So Clinton introduced Rick Barker in one of his calls, met Rick, took his classes. And then the next time, Clinton brings on J.R. McKee. So J.R. McKee is like a streaming executive. So I learned from J.R. So that's like your Spotify and all those. So it wasn't cheap to get into those, but it benefited us a lot because when you're releasing tracks, you need to have like your strategies down. Clinton's like all bulletproof business, like the business aspect. Why some artists you hear, we grow up and they disappear. They didn't take care of their money. So that's a big thing of Clinton. He's kept his brand sustainable. Rick Barker's all marketing. He's so good at marketing. He was so talented with Taylor, getting her music out. J.R. McKee was all the actual, he teaches how it used to be record labels. Major label, you sign your life away. They decide what you're going to do.
Right.
If they don't like you, you're gone.
Yeah.
He would say it's like throwing spaghetti. They throw spaghetti on a wall, whatever sticks, that's who they go with.
Right.
Whoever's off, you're gone. JR teaches that's no longer a thing. It's all about streaming independent artists. You can make just as much money through like your own royalties, through like Spotify and whatnot. Like he's very good at that. So we learned from them, like became like very like experts in those trades, and like it's really helped us. Now we learn those things. Now it's like, okay, it definitely makes a difference having a vocalist. Like I like that kind of music. So Joe, now we're working with all those guys. There's another guy that found out about us through social media. His name's Sergio Trellini. He's from Switzerland. So he has like this thing called Thrill Production, DMs us. I'm kind of like, who is this?
Yeah.
He's asking about, like, he said, I love your artwork and everything. Like, you guys should work with me. And I'm just thinking it's like some kind of spam thing.
It sounds spammy. Yep.
Yeah, because you get that a lot.
Sus.
Yeah.
Kids would say sus, right?
You get requests all
Yeah.
the time. You get all kinds of spam people trying to work with you. And I took a Zoom call with him, middle of the work day. You have to do it, man. You got to work it in.
Right.
Like the stuff that I have to do to make this work, like you'll be in the middle of like your work day, and I'm like, I have a meeting right now.
Yeah.
It could be something music related.
Right.
That's what it takes.
Yeah, yeah.
I talked to him from Switzerland, and I liked him. He talked about like his cost to do it. So we ended up signing up with him. So now like he helps Joe like produce music. So that kind of like helped us. He has connections. He's worked with one of Martin Garrix's big well-known DJ. He like opened at the big Ultra Festival when he was 17 years old.
Wow.
So very talented. He had one of his vocalists on one of his tracks. So he's just like, start with this, look up on Instagram, vocalists, you'll find someone. It's been tough for us. We've been trying.
Yeah.
He said, if you want to pay more money, I have vocalists, but it's going to be at a cost.
Right.
So that's our next step.
Okay.
But I see Joe always on there DMing people, and they're like into it, and then they just fade away. Because you've got to think about, like I said, what's in it for me by doing this. If you release this song, it's just going to fit my brand image.
Right.
It's all about your brand.
Oh, especially being an artist. It is, yeah, because it's your brand, it's your image, it's who you are.
Yeah.
It's how people perceive you. So you're still working Bridgestone, right? You're still working?
Not anymore.
Not anymore? Because what do you do? Because how do you find time? It sounds like during the day you're marketing and this and that, but then...
You'll like this story, yeah.
Okay, I'd love to hear it, yeah.
Yeah. Bridgestone was, when I came up,
Yeah.
I started. I did that for about 2-3 years. I was so burned out. Automotive, you work till 7, 8 p.m. Weekends, my friends are all having fun. I'm stuck in the shop on the weekend. I'm like, and I was on a very good team. I was lucky. It was in Natick, Massachusetts. Natick's not too far from the city. I had this incredible team I just wasn't expecting. Go figure. We were actually named the store of the year in 2018 out of like 2,000 locations. So that was pretty cool. I was on a good team, but it's funny. I decided to leave then in that spring of 2019. I went to ADP, payroll company. I'm like, I want to do something more professional now, like business professional. 180, man. You're in the shop. Your clothes are all dirty. You're working with techs. And I love those guys to death. I would come back in the visit, and I have like a suit on and tie. They're kind of like, who's this guy coming in here?
Yeah.
And I did ADP outside sales in the city of Boston, which is just like, wow, this is different. I'm like downtown, walking through the beautiful Boston Common, the public garden to go to work each day.
Wow.
Parking up like valet. I'm like, this is like I'm like a rock star, but it was just how their environment was. And there you go, payroll company. Just wasn't quite me. I wasn't really liking it. It was just a different type of sale than it was in like an automotive. It's like very like force in a way. You got to get someone like the pain points and whatnot, those in sales. I went back to Bridgestone again for 2 months. Didn't burn bridges. I stayed close with them. They knew I was leaving because I was just burned out.
Right.
Nothing personal. So I teach that a lot when I talk to like students that are still in college. Like, just if you leave someone, don't burn your bridges, because you never know when you might need them again. And it's like a partnership thing. It's like a respect thing. So the same area manager that brought me up to Boston originally, he said, I want you in this it's called Braintree, Massachusetts. It's like down south from Boston. I helped manage that store for about 2 months. But I told him, I'll be honest, I'm doing this until I find like something that's a little more me. He's like, hey, I could use the help in the meantime. So I respected that.
Yeah.
Went from being at Bridgestone again to going to a place called Toast in that January of 2020. Toast is restaurant software. If you go
I've
around,
heard of it. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah,
Toast Square.
Yeah. So Redheaded League here in Lebanon.
They have it.
They use it. There's a couple places here locally because they have like the hand, almost like a big
Toast
iPhone
Go.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I first saw it. I'm like, what the heck's this? Like, oh, you just pay right here. Give me your card. We don't take your credit card back, behind the counter anymore. It's all right in front of you.
That's awesome. That's here now.
So what did you?
Toast. Yeah. That was the story. It was 3 college grads from MIT. 2013 used to meet in their basement. They all left the same company. Brilliant guys. They started this idea. The investors at the time were kind of like, it's too busy. You can't just be another POS system. If you're just doing restaurants, it's never going to work. Because they talked about this at like our annual kickoff meeting when I went that winter. 3 guys turned into like 10 people. They paid their first salesman out of stock. They didn't have the salary to pay him. Now he's doing pretty well.
Oh, I believe it.
Guy.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I joined them as part of like their sales, like their sales process team. I was an enterprise sales coordinator. So after the sale was done, wherever they were at, California, Midwest, Northeast, I worked with all those reps. They would come to me. I would like build the contract, the quote, the hardware to get shipped, the software they're going to use, get the install team to go to their location and install it. Wow. Once that was done, it would go to the post-live team, the restaurant success team. I loved it there. Right in Fenway Park. I could park there. I was going to go to Red Sox games that spring. So excited. And that's when COVID hit. And then we got destroyed in the restaurant industry. Half the company got laid off in that April 2020. So I was one of them. So I was unemployed for about a month and a half, 2 months. That's what brought me into my newest role, ConnectRN. So I've been at ConnectRN ever since. It's nursing software. It was actually, the company was just on Good Morning America last week.
Whoa.
It was part of like Nurses Week. So that's a startup. When I started, it was 44 people just about 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago. And I've had now, I'm in my 4th role now since I started.
Okay.
Just working hard, working your way up. So you can see my journey's been crazy. I always tell everyone, don't commit to a vertical industry and don't think you have to stay somewhere for a long period of time. Times have changed. If you don't like where you're at, go somewhere new. Just don't stay miserable day after day. Yeah. So I like where I'm at now, but I had to find what I liked the past couple of years to get there.
I definitely agree. It's not like how, our father or grandfathers were, where you were with a job for, all your life.
Married to the company.
You're married. Yeah, you're married to it. And not there's anything wrong with that if you find something you like, but, or love especially.
Yeah.
I feel like now, like you said, it's more acceptable, and it's kind of like the journey I think most people go on, to find what you like, get a little taste of everything. So I wanted to ask, before we close out, how can our listeners connect with you and follow along, on your journey and connect with the BeanTown Boys?
Yeah, the website used to be very beginner. Now we have it's like all revamped. So the BeanTownBoys.com, we had a guy from Brazil help make it. Man, great price. Anyone needs connections to websites, this guy's great. He helped build it. We got that revamped as of like January, around the same time as our previous release. Get ready. That worked out really well. That's on our Instagram. You can just go to the website too. Instagram is probably like our biggest platform right now. So just the BeanTown Boys on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. Spotify is like our biggest like music venue, and then it would be like YouTube, like a close second. So pretty much like any like major like music platform, you can listen to us. But definitely stay tuned with like our Instagram, Facebook journey. We have a lot of like our updates and like things that we're doing around the city.
Okay.
So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and all the handles are BeanTownBoys.
It's all the BeanTownBoys or BeanTownBoys.
Okay.
It depends what was taken
Right.
on the internet,
Yeah.
you know, what we could get. But we were lucky the first ones for the website. So it's been great. We edit that as much as possible. It's come a long way. So definitely stay tuned. And we're just excited to see where this next journey takes us.
Before we close out, is there anything else you'd like the listeners to know?
I would say, big thing, we got another song coming out.
Okay.
So it's coming out next Friday, May 20th.
Is this a first? Is this a first? Like nobody else really knows?
No, we started the campaign,
Okay.
and this is something that Rick Barker taught us.
Yeah.
Like the pre-release campaign. So usually like 10 days or so before, we'll start posting to hype it up a little
Okay.
bit, like on Instagram, social media. So we have a song, actually it was the guy from Switzerland with this thrill production. It's called Let's Go Clubbing. So Let's Go Clubbing, you can kind of hear like that European style, like dance music.
Yeah.
Pretty neat. Has like a little bit of vocals in there. Very like quick. That's coming out next Friday, the 20th, on all platforms. So definitely listen to that. We're excited for it. And I can tell you we got more tracks coming after that. So a lot of work being done. How we manage this all with our full-time jobs, I don't know. But it's a
Yeah.
grind, and it's totally worth it.
It's crazy. I was going to ask that because you have so much going on. And it's good. I mean, still being young, you can do this kind of stuff. Do you currently, and this is kind of my last question, but do you have any merch for sale, or do you see that something maybe in the near future?
Near
Shirts
future.
and things? Yeah.
Near future. We have my cousin had got me like a shirt, which I can't even find to this day, but it was awesome. It's somewhere in Boston, and the BeanTownBoys logo, we like our silhouette of like us two. It'd be great.
Yeah.
It's like our business card logo. That's kind of like we got to build our brand first in the website, but the next step would be like we've talked to like girls I went to school with, like guys I went to school with, like who would want to be like the models for the clothing, like hats and like shirts and whatnot. We're looking into like stickers. You can use like the clubs, like magnets. So that's a big part of your business, like the merchandise. A lot of your sales will come from there. So that'll probably be like the next like year or two, like plan.
Yeah.
But
No, that's
it's
awesome.
exciting. Well, if I get some, I'll definitely make sure I drop some off.
Oh
here
yeah,
or
please
mail
do.
here.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, and I'd love to have you on again.
would love to be
maybe
back.
a couple of years or so.
Yeah.
and catch up, see how things are going. JD on the American Grown podcast in the Colortech Creative Solutions studios. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Austin. Appreciate it, man.
If you want to see more American Grown content, follow along on Facebook and Instagram. Username American Grown Podcast. If you received any value, please share this episode with friends, family, and coworkers. And lastly, subscribe and leave a review.
If you'd like to be a featured guest on the podcast, please direct message or email Austin at americangrownpod@gmail.com.